Hi, dreamers. I'm Percival,
And I'm Vivian.
and we are your hosts of the Dreamscape Chronicles.
If you would like to share a story for us to tell or come on the show and share it yourself, we welcome all dreamers to contact us at dreamscapechronicles@outlook.com. Our Patreon is now live. Just search the Dreamscape Chronicles. We will also be putting a link in our show notes to make it easier to find. It's only $1 for Discord access, so you can join our growing community by chatting about the show, voting on polls, and sharing stories with others like yourself. Soon we will be moving our special episodes and witching hour segments over to Patreon. At a higher tier, you will have access to our personal stories and more of our special episodes. The witching hour segments and other special episodes that we have already released will stay free. But if you are looking for more content like that, Patreon is where you will find them. Now back to our regularly scheduled broadcast.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in the woods at night? Not just walking a trail at dusk, not camping in a crowded park, but really out there, miles from any other person, deep under the canopy where moonlight barely touches the ground. If you have, then you know what I mean when I say the forest feels alive. Not in a fairy tale way, not in a warm way, alive in the sense that something is shifting, watching, listening. And the strangest thing about the woods is not the silence, it's the sounds, because sometimes you hear something that doesn't fit. This episode, we want to take you into that strangeness. We're going to follow 3 kinds of sounds that don't belong in the forest: mimicry, whistling, and bells. And then I want you to really think about them. What do these sounds mean? What are they trying to say? So let's step off the trail together and listen.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Episode 22.
That would be the one.
Hey, we've survived this long. This is pretty cool.
We have. We have officially one Patreon episode now.
Yes. If you're wondering where episode 21 was, that's where you'll find it.
Exactly. But what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we're going to talk about some lore that surrounds a experience we just had a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we're going to cover some of that and then do some sharing a little bit later.
Sharing is caring.
Caring is caring.
Okay, so let's begin with mimicry then, because nothing unsettles a person faster than hearing a familiar voice in the wrong place. Imagine that you're camping in the middle of nowhere. The fire's gone cold, your friend is zipped up in a sleeping bag next to you, and then you hear a voice outside your tent calling your name. You turn and your friend is still there, fast asleep. What do you do with that? Mimicry in the woods shows up all over folklore and first-hand accounts. Hunters say they've even heard animal calls that sound almost right, but not quite. Hikers talk about hearing their own names whispered from the trees. Sometimes it's even a baby crying in the forest, which is deeply unsettling because what's more guaranteed to draw us closer than a crying baby? We also have the Algonquin, people of northeastern North America, where we get the legend of the Wendigo, a malevolent spirit, monster sometimes, said to mimic the cries or voices of loved ones to lure victims into the deep woods in isolation. We see a lot of their lore in contemporary storytelling that revolves around the Wendigo cryptid as well. In the Navajo tradition, the skinwalker is said to mimic human voices and even familiar sounds to lure people away. In Appalachia, the so-called not deer, something that wears the shape of a deer but isn't, has been linked to strange noises in the night. And in Slavic folklore, the forest spirits, the Leshi, were said to imitate voices to draw wanderers deeper into the trees. The common thread is this: the woods echo you back, not as you are, but just close enough to trick you. And here's the question: if something copies your voice, does it know what it's saying? Or is it just repeating like a recording? A lure with no mind behind it? Which is worse, that it doesn't know or that it does?
Yeah, that is terrifying. I think having like a mindless lure out there seems more terrifying in my opinion.
It kind of does. Anytime I heard of a mimic, it always reminds me of my childhood, and you see like the treasure chest with teeth.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of like they're like sitting around just waiting to snap at you.
Yeah, they're like an ambush predator, like a trapdoor spider or something. It's like waiting for its prey to come by.
Looks so innocent just sitting there though.
That's what greed will get you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
eaten by a mimic.
It always reminded me of Hagrid's required reading textbook that looks like a hairy spider and snaps at you. The you gotta stroke the spine.
Oh, the book that was like chasing him around the.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was a
yeah.
terrible accent, but we're gonna go with it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I didn't even think of that as a mimic. So why don't we talk about the next common thing heard in the woods?
Yeah, let's move to whistling. This one's fascinating because the rule is nearly universal. Don't whistle at night. Don't whistle in the woods. You'll hear it in Mexico and Central America. Whistling after dark calls El Silbón, the whistler, a wandering spirit carrying the bones of his father, an omen of death. In Japan, the warnings are just as strong. There's a saying, Yoru ni kuchibui o fuku to hebi ga teru, which means whistling at night brings snakes. On the surface, it sounds like a folk warning about snakes, but many folklorists suggest the snake is really a stand in for something else, a spirit or a misfortune that slithers silently into your life if you call out into the darkness.
Or it's just a serial killer.
Well, yep, they too slither silently into your life.
That is true. But no, I think this is actually in a lot of cultures at nighttime you would give away your position if you're making noise, so it makes sense why.
Yeah, for sure. Or a superstition of sorts.
Yeah. To get
Definitely.
kids not to make noise at night, maybe.
Yeah.
Or the boogeyman's gonna get you.
Or just to shut up and sleep. I mean,
That too.
yeah.
Go to bed.
Then there are the Tengu, mysterious mountain dwelling beings, tricksters, protectors, and sometimes predators. Some versions of the lore say if you whistle in the mountains at night, you may draw their attention. And if a Tengu notices you, it might just lead you astray, deeper into the mountains until you're hopelessly lost. And that brings us to the legend of Kuchisaki Onna, or the slit-mouthed woman, another Japanese legend. She really grew in popularity in the late 20th century as an urban legend, but folklorists actually connect her back to as far as the Heian and Edo periods. She is the ghostly woman that is disfigured by jealous husbands or spirits circulated in, that era's literature. And she's grotesquely appearing and haunting the living. And in the 70s, her popularity came back, spreading rumors of this woman who wore a hospital mask who would wait in alleys for children. And she would say, "Am I pretty? Watashi kirei." So if you answered yes, she would remove her mask, revealing her mouth slit ear to ear. And then she would ask, "How about now?" And if you said no, she killed you. But if you answered yes again, she would slit your mouth like hers. So there's really no winning with this legend. But there was a rumor that you could give her candy and distract her and run away, or you could give her an answer that's not a yes or no and do the same to distract and run away. But with all the legends surrounding her, the gist is kids swore they saw her. Rumors said she lingered near schools, near alleys, carrying a sickle. The question always being the same. And teachers had to walk students home. In some prefectures of Japan, police actually patrolled as if you could handcuff a spirit, but that's the power of a rumor. When enough people believe, the world shifts around it. The newspapers even picked it up, of course. Reports of a masked woman chasing children, retellings, each one just credible enough to push that fear a little bit deeper. It wasn't just a story anymore, it was an epidemic of dread. A collective hallucination is some people's summary of this. And in the late 70s, that dread slid to Korea, where those schools also kept watch on children who were whispering about the slit-mouthed woman. Folklore evolves, and some modern versions whisper that if you whistle at night, it's her way of finding you, following the sound until she's standing just behind you. In North America, many indigenous traditions say whistling in the dark is a way to invite spirits, sometimes tricksters, sometimes something worse. Among the Cree, for instance, whistling at night is tied to drawing spirits who answer back. In the traditions of the Ojibwe, there's a figure sometimes referred to as the Wendigo, a corrupted spirit of greed, hunger, and endless cold. We've just spoken of him, of course. While most people today know the Wendigo through horror fiction, in its original teachings, it was less of a monster in the woods and more of a spiritual warning. One common thread, though, is sound. The Wendigo calls out in voices it should not have. Sometimes it mimics, sometimes it whistles. Either way, acknowledging it, answering it, draws you closer to its reach. Moving to Appalachia. Also, we've just mentioned, so lots happening in the Appalachian region, where settlers picked up their own version of the rule. In the mountains, they say, don't whistle in the forest or the devil will come calling. Some modern hikers in those same hills tell stories of hearing whistles when there was no one else around, followed by snapping twigs, rustling brush, like something big was pacing them just out of sight. They say it's the not deer, the creature that wears the shape of a deer but isn't one, luring the curious closer with wrong sounds. And that's the uncanny overlap. Whether it's Cree territory, Inuit land, Ojibwe teachings, or Appalachian mountains, the same warning echoes. Don't whistle at night. Don't whistle in the woods. Because the thing is, whistling is both simple and bold. It carries far, and it signals presence. It says, here I am, I'm not afraid. And if something in the woods is listening, maybe that's the very thing it's waiting for. You know, I've read and heard plenty of modern accounts, campers saying they whistled into the night, half as a joke, and seconds later something whistled back. Not exactly the same tune, just close enough to know it wasn't an echo. Hunters out at dawn hearing two sharp whistles from the tree line, as if someone was signaling, but there was no one else for miles. People walking alone at night, swearing the sound came just from behind them, only to turn and find empty space. So here's the real question. If you whistle and something answers, are you the caller, or are you the one being called? And maybe that's why the lore is so strict. Don't whistle at night. Don't start a conversation you don't want to finish. Because once the woods are speaking back to you, you've already crossed a line you can't uncross.
You know, I know somebody who's been whistling at nighttime.
Okay, you know what? You're just stepping on the story now.
Well, what happened?
Well, you'll have to wait and find out.
Well, let's not forget about this other sound. Bells in the
Yes.
woods. And not sleigh bells from Santa, but like sleigh bells like sleigh bitch.
Oh. Okay. That's a choice.
Anyways, so the bells. Now, this is strange because bells don't belong in the forest. They belong in villages, in chapels, on farm animals, on deer pulling sleigh. They're deeply human, and yet people hear them. Faint ringing, metallic tones drifting through the trees, sometimes big like church bells, sometimes small like little wind chimes or harness bells. Something you'd put on your chihuahua
Or the cat.
or the cat. I mean, what do you do with that?
Hmm. Well, if you've ever read old fairy tales, this should sound familiar. The other world is always full of music, music that lures you off the path, music you can never quite track down. The bells in the forest might be part of that same pattern. Some stories of the will o' the wisp have similar occurrences. Though mostly known for their lights, some regional variations describe them as accompanied by soft chiming or bell like sounds in forests and marshes, meant to lure wanderers deeper until they're lost. Just as well as the Corrigans, which are tiny fey creatures who live in forests and near megaliths, known in Breton folklore originating in France. Travelers sometimes hear faint metallic tinkling or bell chimes when approaching the spots where Corrigans open hidden fairy portals.
If I hear any metallic tinkling, I'm going to have to go to the doctor.
That sounds like a personal issue. Yes, indeed.
Personal Percival issue.
Ah, personal Percival.
Yeah,
Poor little guy.
I got it. This does make me think though, because I have heard it mentioned that portals themselves can make metallic ringing or a bell type noise. So
Mm.
I wonder if an alternative is that folks are getting too close to these portals and are hearing them rather than the creatures. Or perhaps these creatures are there to protect said portals, or are they a byproduct of
Mm.
the portal itself?
I got you.
Jumping down a rabbit hole now, but I thought it was relevant to bring up.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Could be portals. Portals and frequencies, man. Some say these bell sounds are a trick, a lure, the sound of safety leading you somewhere you shouldn't be. But I sometimes wonder if bells are the forest's way of announcing itself, a ritual sound, a kind of ceremony reminding us that we've stepped into a place that doesn't follow our rules anymore. And if you follow these bells into the trees, who, or rather what, could be leading you?
So if a tree rings a bell in the forest and no one's around,
I,
does it make a sound?
I think there's still sound here. I think that's still a thing. Philosophically, I'm not certain. Scientifically, it would make sense.
I think that's one of those quantum things with sound.
Could be.
Now let's step back. What if these aren't separate mysteries, right? So mimicry, the whistling, bells, but all part of the same phenomenon. Think about it. Each one is a sound that doesn't belong. Each one is a sound that responds. It's like a response. A voice from the dark, a whistle returned, a bell leading you away. What if the forest isn't just a backdrop, but an intelligence on its own? What if the forest communicates with us, not in words, but in sounds that demand attention? Maybe these are invitations, maybe they're warnings, maybe they're both.
Mm.
And here's a dangerous thought. What if the more we answer them, the more the forest answers back until the conversation is one we can't walk away from?
Mm.
So this brings us back to the thing that always gets brought up, and that's frequencies. Are these sounds just a part of some kind of quantum phenomenon with frequencies that is causing some kind of unique experience that people are experiencing?
It does make you think because it seems like these entities or creatures or cryptids, whatever they are in the woods that are making these sounds, luring or protecting or communicating. It's all a type of communication. And maybe this is just them trying to figure out the right frequency, if that makes sense.
That's possible. I mean, anything's possible at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I could be rich tomorrow, but probably not.
Well, here's hoping.
So maybe we should go ahead and tell them a little bit about the story that we were going to tell. And I have a little story that I remember whenever I was a little kid that I mentioned to you before.
Why don't you tell me that one, and then we can deep dive into the one that happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, sure. We'll do it that way.
Go for it.
So I was pretty young, probably 8 or 9, and behind my house was a forest at the time. And after school, it was pretty much hang around the neighborhood and kind of the ghetto and probably get jumped and your tennis shoes taken.
Oh my gosh.
Or go play in the woods away from people that wouldn't play in the woods, if that makes sense.
Woods it is.
So you could go pretty far back because it was industrial area and a lot of the refineries owned a lot of the land. So you would walk back so far and then there would be like a fence line. But where I would go behind my house, if you went directly behind it and just kept going, there would be like this big clearing that didn't have the fence part connected to it.
Okay.
And often I would go back there and just kind of hang out because like it looked like they had done a bunch of logging and there was like, like a bunch of stumps from some where all the trees were cleared. But then there was like a train track pretty far in the back of this clearing. And at one time I had went back there and I was just like kind of hanging out, playing with sticks and a little Daisy BB gun, shooting random things in the forest.
Shooting leaves.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like I heard like a strange noise and it sounded like somebody was like called my name. And I'm like thinking like I'm pretty far. Like normally it was too far for me to hear my parents calling if they were calling from the house.
Yeah.
Like I had gone too far if I was at this clearing. And so I was like thinking like, oh, did my mom come looking for me in the forest? I was kind of scared at first and I didn't know if I was going to answer back or not. And then I heard it again, but it wasn't my mom calling me. It was a loud, hey. And it just sounded like somebody yelled it. Probably, it wasn't that close of a sound. So it was kind of distant. It had that weird way that sound travels when you're yelling like across a field or something.
Yeah. Like the voice is thrown a little.
Right. Just about that time, whenever it said, hey, and I turned back around because the first time I heard it, it was like behind me towards the way I came. And then the second time, it was behind me again towards the opening, towards the clearing. And so I turn around. I swear it looked like a black figure stood up behind one of the cut logs.
Oh, shit.
And it was kind of humanoid, but it looked weird. I don't know how to describe it. I would say it was like, if you know what Swamp Thing looks like, but like a malnourished Swamp Thing. It was very dark in its form and it was kind of hunched down behind the stump, but it was like you could tell that it was poking out. And it almost looked like it had like little pointy ears, maybe dog ears, but not really. I don't think this was what people call the dog man or anything, but it just looked strange the way it looked. And it freaked me out and I just took off running through the woods like as fast as I could. I'm pretty sure I ran through some banana spider webs,
Oh,
which
gosh.
were horrible. Like I was freaking out about having spiders on me by the time I got back. And it was probably about a 15-minute walk, maybe. So, I mean, I made it pretty quick. I ran as fast as I could through the forest.
Damn.
But I don't know what that was. But that was one of the first times I heard a noise like that, anyways, in the woods.
Yeah. That's terrifying. But it was human-esque.
Yeah, it sounded like a person was talking.
And the shadow, too, was kind of more human looking.
Yeah, I don't think it looked like it was something real. For some reason I thought it was some kind of dog or something at the time that was kind of like sitting behind the stump. It just, I don't know why my brain thought it was some kind of dog, and I was just like, oh no, I gotta get out of here.
I got you.
So I took off running. I think it was because of the way that its ears looked. I just assumed that it was like some kind of dog or something like that.
But it said your name to begin with?
Yeah, at first it sounded like it was calling my name. Like it sounded like my mom was like yelling for me to come home.
And your mom used to do that all the time, like yell for you to come back in when
Well,
it's time?
yeah, because we'd be off in the woods and stuff, and she'd normally just yell off the back porch towards,
That's crazy.
to the into the woods, because we were normally not that far in the woods. We would always like make forts and weird little tree houses, and
Sure, yeah.
and pretty much there was like a stream that crossed the back of the property, and you would go across the little stream, and then there was like a four-wheeler trail that went left and right that followed the stream. But if you just went directly into the woods past the four-wheeler trail, there were some pretty weird trees that were old oak trees and stuff that were kind of stretched out.
Okay, yeah.
Those weird looking, stumpy looking stretched out ones, and we would just hang out in the trees.
Yeah, those are like the perfect climbing ones.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me though, because the voice sounded like your mother, is that right?
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe whatever it was mimicking your mother and has heard her before.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. After that, I don't think I went back. I never went back out to that clearing either.
Didn't go back that. Yeah. I don't think I would either.
I forgot about that for a while. I always thought, because like I heard the stories like the Rougarou where I grew up, that was basically a werewolf.
Mm.
And then all this Dogman stuff came out, a couple of years back, and it was Dogman this, Dogman that, and I was like, I don't know, maybe it was a Dogman, but more than likely, I don't know, maybe it was my eyes playing tricks on me, even because like it didn't really move. I thought it moved. I thought it, whenever I turned back around, I saw it squat down, but in my head, it's just, that's probably a false memory that it was just there.
Mm.
And it looked like something that was squatting behind a stump. But this was probably close to like a football field distance away.
Okay. So it was a fair piece to try and focus on.
Right. Like I couldn't really make out detail. I could just see something that looked like something was squatting behind the stump.
Well, and I'm sure, I mean, being a kid and being in the midst of fear itself, your brain kind of tweaks certain details. So maybe your brain saw it that way.
Right.
Processing it as an adult, maybe you're seeing the information a little bit clearer.
Yeah, from more of a, it's probably something else.
That's crazy though.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I jump into our shared experience from just a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
It was about 10 o'clock at night. Me and Percival were out on the deck, just talking, enjoying the quiet. And then I heard it, a whistle, but not just any whistle, that kind that was like high, then low, double whistle.
Like to get your attention, like the you whistle.
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
High, low.
exactly.
Okay.
But it wasn't from a bird. It was pretty late at night, so there's not a lot of them out to begin with, but you can hear the difference between a person whistling from their lips versus a bird.
And I don't think we have any birds that whistle like that around here.
No, not in that pattern. But it sounded loud and clear, like it was definitely made by a person. Plus, it was coming from like a lower to the ground section of the tree line. So it wasn't coming from the trees, like it would have been coming from ground level. Well, I froze, and when Percival asked what was wrong, I asked if he had not just heard that sound. And of course, Percival swore he didn't hear a thing. So we went quiet for a minute, listening to the woods. Then it came again. Same sound. And
I couldn't hear it still.
yeah. So we went still again. But this time, when I heard the whistle a third time, I also heard something like a rustle behind one of the garages near that same tree line.
And I did hear that. It sounded like maybe I caught the tail end of some mumbling or gibberish.
Right. I think you said something about it sounded like someone was having a conversation, like whispering or something.
Like I couldn't make it out. It just sounded like two people were talking in like another room. Like if the room was shut and you can hear people talking, it was muffled, gargled conversation.
Mm.
Sounded kind of weird.
Well, anyway, right after that, we both saw this movement, and it was just like a large shadow creeping along the edge of the tree line. And the way it is they creep away on the tree line and then it kind of curves back and it heads straight back to the house. So as soon as they kind of curled around that side, Percival and I just looked at each other and we were like, nah, we're out. That was enough for us. So we headed inside, locked all the doors, placed the alarm on and tried to get some sleep. Just kind of, chalk it up to paranoia. But around 1:30 in the morning, we found this out the next morning, of course, because our security system gives us updates on what happened throughout the night after the fact.
And it didn't pick it up on the movement detection.
Right, the motion sensors didn't trigger, but around 1:30 in the morning, the security camera caught a flash of light out by the same part of the tree line.
Like the exact spot.
But nothing was physically there to set off the motion trigger.
And there's nothing that would reflect light in the woods right there, or there's nobody's property or house or anything that's
Nah. It butts up against like 2 acres of woods.
if not more.
Yes. And our neighbors, they're so far you don't see any lights from their house or anything like that. If you had seen something like that, it wouldn't have been bright enough to pick it up on the security sensor.
And if somebody would have pulled in the driveway,
the motion trigger would have gone off.
Even if the motion trigger wouldn't have went off, I don't think their headlights wouldn't have shined in that direction to begin with.
No. And this specific security camera that it picked up on is only pointed at the woods. Like it's the back door sensor. So it's backyard, woods, garage, like a little bit of pond. That's all you can see in it. So it was so strange. So, of course we went back out there to the tree line in the morning when we woke up and saw the security footage. And we checked the doors and windows of the garages near the place the light flashed on the camera. But, thinking maybe someone had a flashlight, maybe that's who we heard mumbling, who was whistling in the woods last night, something like that. Maybe they were breaking in.
Right, yeah, like they were trying to break in the garage.
Look for a place to stay for the night or look for something to sell. But nothing was loose or broken or out of place, and all of the locks were well intact. Puzzled, we started doing some digging, and that's kind of where we came to this episode this week for you guys, because we do live in the Ozarks. We're a few hours drive from the Appalachian region, so that really means it could have been anything.
Probably a not deer.
Probably a not deer.
That is not a deer.
It's not a deer, but it's not a deer.
So we're told not to whistle at night, not to follow strange voices, not to chase bells off the path. Why? Maybe because people who did those things never came back to tell us what happened. Maybe the rules aren't superstitions at all. Maybe they're survival guides. So the next time you're in the woods at night and the silence feels heavy, remember this: the forest may not be silent at all. It may just be waiting.
And when you hear that strange sound, the mimicry, the whistle, the bells, don't ask yourself what it is. Ask yourself why it wants your attention.
Because once you notice it, you can guarantee that it's already noticed you. And when you hear that whistle,
will you whistle back? I have to tell you, that night, there's no way you could have paid me to whistle back at that thing.
Yeah, but you did like a week later.
I did. Out of curiosity, I kept thinking, no, it didn't happen. But I do have the security photos.
Everybody who listens to us are probably like, these two are going to be the most cursed podcasters ever. They are going to have shit up to the ceiling and paranormal badness happening to them.
Paranormal badness. That's going to be our new side episodes.
We do these things so you don't have to.
We try the buttons so you don't have to push them.
Don't poke the knot deer.
Right. Let us poke it. It's fine.
Well, before we drift off into the land of sleep, here are a few more whispers from the void. We'd like to thank our Patreon members who have joined us in helping contribute to keeping the show alive.
Yes, thank you. And our newest member of that Patreon supporter team,
Killjoy Kenji.
Thank you, Killjoy Kenji. You really are the rock star out there. We really appreciate all the support we get from you guys, and it seriously means a lot. I hope y'all know that. So if you haven't already checked out our Patreon, go on over there. It's $1 to get in the Discord. You can meet some of the really cool, interesting folks we have in there right now. And for a little higher tier, you can access all of our extra episodes. So very, very exciting.
Yep. And we'd also like to thank Sacred Flux for spending so much time recording with us over the past couple weeks.
Oh my gosh, yes. Sacred Flux, you are killing it. Just propping us up, man.
And stay tuned. So we should have some more interviews coming up. And if you guys missed the last episode, it was Sacred Flux and I talking about our near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in hearing about them, that's where it is.
Guys, if you think you're interested, you have no idea. You're interested. I promise. It was incredible. Just so much detail. And it really does put you in like a different headspace altogether. But until next time, dreamers, keep dreaming and
join us in discovering what may lie beyond the walls of sleep.